Hey, welcome back to the Due to Real Estate Show. I'm here with Billy once again. Billy, what's going on?
It's really cold here in Wisconsin, and I'm wondering why we live here at this point.
Right now I am wondering the same thing. Like 1 or 2 cold days below zero, fine. But when it's like 15 days in a row
Yeah.
and for the foreseeable future, I am also wondering the same thing. I've been kind of like looking at some of the southern states, like, oh, I wonder what the temp is there. And then I just get depressed. So I stopped looking.
Yeah.
My tenants are in uh, much warmer climates than me, and I'm kind of wishing I just lived there.
You could.
I guess I
Don't,
could.
don't move on me, though.
I got to convince the wife.
Yeah.
So, all right. Today, we're going to talk about an interesting topic. I think we've maybe touched on it a couple times, but maybe we're offline. I don't remember. Today, we're going to talk about do you need a real estate license as an investor? So I will riff for a couple minutes here, and then we'll get into some Q&A. Um, so first of all, I used to be licensed. I was a real estate agent for 6 years. And honestly, I would not have gotten into real estate investing had I not had my license. The reason for that is because over the first couple of years of being an agent, kind of learning the ropes, going through the transactions, things like that, I just gained a level of comfort of a real estate transaction because it's kind of a big, scary thing.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things going on in a real estate transaction. And I think some investors, especially new investors, get kind of hung up on like, okay, so how does the mortgage work? How do the showings work? How do I figure out if it's a good deal? Like, there's just so many aspects to um, getting a house under contract, and then you do the
Yeah.
inspection and then eventually buy it. I mean, there's so many things, so many moving parts. And so it is kind of scary. Um, and I think had I not had that confidence because I had been through that process, dozens and dozens of times, I don't know if I ever would have gotten into investing. So I'm super happy that I did have my license then. And it was very convenient too, because I could go see any properties that I wanted to that were on the MLS. Another kind of useful thing was the flexibility with commission structures too. So let's just say it was a house listed on the MLS. If I go to buy it, guess what? I get a commission on the buy side,
Yeah.
and then if it's like a flip, I can take a commission on
That's right.
the other side as well. So there are definitely some good things about that. The reason I got my real estate license is because I was stuck at a job that I didn't love for a very long time. I had looked into real estate as an option, and eventually it kind of worked itself out where I found the right broker, the right company to work for. I got my license. And then within 8 months of getting my license, I had quit my 40-hour a week, 9 to 5 W-2 job and just did real estate full time. So that was one of the best days of my life, to be honest. It was just very freeing. I, was able to set my own schedule, do the things I wanted to do. Of
Yeah.
course, there's a lot of responsibility and other things that come with it. But, so one of the things, if you're looking to invest, you don't necessarily need a license.
Mhm.
But we can talk a little bit about some good things and then some bad things about it. So some of the good things are you can make a commission and you can even make a full-time income, replace your income, quit your job, stuff like that, just like I did. So if that's what you're looking to do, if you want to get into real estate investing and you're interested in real estate and you think you could be good at real estate sales, you might as well jump into it because it's a great way to get started and get your feet wet, get to know the industry, and really get to know your market. And it's a good place to start. So that's not too bad. If you're doing flips or something like that, like I said, you can earn commissions a couple ways that way as well, which is really nice. And there are some tax advantages to that too. So you might get taxed more heavily if you're flipping a property. on the short-term capital gains, but not tax as much on your commission because you're going to be taxed, within your 1099 type of position. So that's why I pretty much always took a commission. Of course, talk to a CPA. I'm not giving tax advice here, but there can be some advantages to taking a commission when you're selling your own flips. And it gives you more control over those two, right? So you could farm it out to another agent, but if you're doing the flip yourself, the property in and out, and you're probably the right one to market the property as well.
Mhm.
So, you get access to properties, you can make money.
Mhm.
Let's talk about some of the downsides. Some of the downsides of having a license are there are a lot of fees involved. So if you're not really wanting to do it actively and sell properties and stuff like that, if you're just looking for, say, access to the MLS or to sell your own properties, stuff like that, it might be a bit of a challenge because there are MLS fees, other realtor board fees. If you join a certain company, they have, desk fees or office fees or transaction fees. And then of course there's your own marketing. So what kind of marketing are you doing? If you're marketing to buyers or sellers, if you're sending out postcards, or if you need a website or all these other things, there's a lot of things that do add up. So if you're more of you want to get your license just for, one of the two reasons I mentioned, it might not be the best fit for you. But if you're looking to be more active, I think it certainly can be. Now, there are some holding companies out there where you can kind of hang your license, not have that many fees. It's usually like a yearly fee, something like that. And maybe they have like a transaction fee for each transaction. That can be a workaround for something like that. You just need to find those and vet those for yourself. The other thing, as far as a negative, is when you're a real estate agent, you're held to a higher standard than just, a private citizen.
Me.
So you have certain liabilities. And in fact, when you're a real estate agent, it's a really good idea to have E&O insurance, which is errors and omissions, which applies specifically to like contracts and things like that. And depending on the state you're in, it can be an issue. Like some people look at an agent as like a fiduciary, kind of like a financial advisor. That's not usually true, but at the same time, if your company holds earnest money funds, things like that, it kind of can become a fiduciary responsibility to clients, whether they're buyers or sellers. So there's a little bit more liability. There's a lot more disclosures. So there's a lot more paperwork. So you have to disclose, let's just say you're meeting with a motivated seller. Maybe you're thinking you want to flip the property and buy it yourself. I mean, you have to disclose that you are a licensed agent. And so that's one of the things. And they might be like, hey, I feel like maybe you're just in it for that. You're not really in it to help me. So that could kind of be a negative as well. Any questions at the moment, Billy? Have you ever thought about getting your license, or what are your kind of thoughts on a real estate license? Would it help you or hurt you in your business?
That's a great question. So I think I've been thinking about it lately, and it seems like it would be a good option for me to get the experience I want in the industry. So like you said, there's something about doing the transaction and being a part of those things that give you an experience that can help you down the road. So like, even though you don't do day-to-day transactions anymore with your real estate license, and I don't even think it's active right now, right?
As far as I know, I don't think it's active. Yeah.
Yes. So now you everything you've learned is still, you still know it, and you don't even have to disclose. So one of those negatives is taken away already. So I think for me, it definitely is an option that I should consider, because it's something that could benefit me in getting further into real estate.
Yeah. And I think if you want to look at properties on the MLS, it's a huge advantage, because then you don't have to call or text or email your realtor and be like, hey, I want to look at this property. And then they're like, well, what days work for you? What times work for you? And you're like, well, this day, and they're like, oh, that doesn't work. It's just like that whole logistics thing. Like you can schedule it online and go take a look at the first opportunity that you have. So that's one kind of positive as well, that you can kind of do that if that's what you're looking to do. It just depends on your strategy a little bit too, but it can give you an idea of what's available, what's out there, how do these properties show, can help you with the comps. And what's nice about that too, when you have access to MLS, like it's a lot easier to do comps instead of going to like Zillow or Redfin and pulling properties and figuring out, okay, are these relevant comps or not, where there's a lot more tools within the MLS to do that. So if you're not licensed, you're kind of relying on your realtor to provide you with that stuff. And then sometimes you have to wait. Whereas something you could do in 5 or 10 minutes by yourself, you might have to wait a day or two, for the realtor to get stuff back to you. So speed can be a thing. So if it's a super competitive market and you're working with a busy realtor, then that you could be at a disadvantage.
Yeah. What about like disclosing if you're investing out of state? So I know you do out of state, but you don't have your license in the state you invest. So do you still have to disclose that?
No, I don't believe so. For out of state, let's just say you have your license. This could be another benefit actually. If you have your license in your state, and you're investing out of state, or you're perhaps you have other contacts out of state, you can get referral fees for buys and sells. So if you can negotiate with the other agent, usually it's like 25, 30%, something like that. So you can get referral fees. I don't think it is necessary to disclose. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I don't think it's necessary to disclose that you're an agent, a licensed agent in another state. I would still bring it up to your, the purchasing agent in the other state if you're buying something, that, hey, I'm an agent. Is there anything that we need? There might be an addendum or a disclosure or something like that. But it's not as big of a deal as your own state where you are licensed.
Right. And I'm sure that probably depends state to state, even if you have to disclose that. So
yeah, each state's a little bit different. Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, those are the big things. So for me, I think it kind of makes more sense to pursue this as an option, because there is, to get your license, you have to do 90 hours of training and take a test and pass the test. That I know it's not necessarily real estate related, 100% real estate related. It's more to the transaction and, the issues that can come up in a real estate deal. It doesn't really have to do anything with your business, but it would give me more confidence when it comes to looking at a real estate deal and making a decision quicker.
Yeah, and it could open your eyes to a couple things too. There's things that when you're studying, you're going through some of the test guides and stuff like that, that you're like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Like it could be something that could come to you, could be an advantage for you down the line. And, with like a lot of tests out there, it's more of like a barrier to entry, even though a lot of it is real estate specific. When I passed my first test in Illinois, and then I started, I'm like, nothing that I studied for in the test really helped me in my first year of selling real estate. Like there are many other things that are much more helpful. So it's not like they tell you how to sell a property or how to fill out a contract. It's more about the legal side of things, because there are a lot of legal things tied into these real estate contracts on the buy and the sell side, and the federal laws around fair housing and things like that. So things that are very important to know and understand. But at the end of the day, it's basically like, well, okay, how do I buy or sell? Or I remember one of my first showings, like I didn't even know how to open a lockbox. You know what I mean? So it's like, that would have been helpful to know how to open a lockbox on a showing, but it's one of those things, you just experience it and you figure it out. So yeah. So anyway, do you think you're going to get your license?
It's still up in the air. I think just the cost of doing it is what slows me down. It's like, well, I could use this money towards buying something versus like paying it here, and then if it doesn't turn anything, like I just spent some money here and I didn't use it. So
Yep. It's a time commitment. It's a financial commitment.
Hmm.
And then, you kind of have to figure out like, okay, because you, as an agent, you have to hang your license somewhere. So what office are you going to go with? Like,
Hmm.
because some offices are going to be more expensive than others too. So some
Hmm.
might be like, well, it's $500 a month. You get a desk, you have access to our transaction coordinator.
Hmm.
Um, we help you out with this and that. Whereas at another place, there's maybe just a transaction fee, so
Sure.
you kind of have to figure out which brokerage is the right fit for you and what you want to do as well.
Right.
You could eventually get your managing broker license and just kind of have your own place, but that I
Sure.
believe takes a couple years before you
Hmm.
can get your managing broker license. One other thing I was going to mention, and now I'm losing it, so I don't know if I remember it.
Happens.
But yeah, as far as there are some fees, and then just the time involved, to learn and study these things. It takes time. It took me about 4 months, I think, to get licensed. I think you can do it much quicker. You can probably do it as quick as 2.
Yeah.
You can do either live classes or online classes, and there's a lot of
Hmm.
different ways to get your license nowadays. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention, continuing education. So every 2 years, there's requirements for continuing education. You have a certain number of hours you have to fulfill, and so that's
Hmm.
another thing to do. A lot of agents forget about it or just put it off because they're busy, and then
Hmm.
it's like the month before it's due, they're doing all these online classes or whatever, or live classes for their continuing education requirements, which sometimes if you wait till the last minute, you have to pay for them. If you're smart, you're going to go through your realtor board while training's ongoing through those
Yeah.
couple of years so that you can add up those credits over time. But that is another thing, just another thing to consider, because they require 20 or 30 hours of CE every couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I think, yeah, for some people, great fit. For other people, totally not necessary. If you're investing in real
Mhm.
estate, all you need to do is put a team together. And we're going to be talking about that in the next episode. We're going to be talking about putting a team together. And so if you have the right team in place, you really don't need a license at all. So we will talk about that next time. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.